And let's turn to our first guest, Doug Kendall, president of the Constitutional Accountability Center, and to discuss this Supreme Court pick. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, did you have a horse in this race? Is this pick one that you like to see today?
I didn't have a horse in the race. I thought President Obama put together a remarkable list of candidates on the short list. I would have been delighted if any of the people that he was seriously considering was picked. I think it's a terrific pick, though.
Doug, from what you've seen in the initial reaction and, an hour or two into this, what's emerging as the fault lines that we're likely to continue to hear about as this plays out through the Judiciary Committee and onto the Senate floor?
Well, I think President Obama has done what he's done so often, which is confound the political wisdom and picked someone who is likely to appeal across the political spectrum. This is a judge who was appointed first by President George Herbert Walker Bush and appointed second by President Clinton to the Second Circuit. She was confirmed by wide majorities, bipartisan majorities on both confirmation hearings. So she is someone who can do what Barack Obama did to a lot of political issues across the campaign trail and since being president, which is diffuse a hot-button political issue and reach a broad section of Americans.
In fact, President Obama, at the announcement this morning in the East Room of the White House, made a point to say that it was George H.W. Bush that had initially appointed her. I want you to take a listen to that, and we'll talk about it in a moment.
It's a measure of her qualities and her qualifications that Judge Sotomayor was nominated to the U.S. District Court by a Republican president, George H.W. Bush, and promoted to the Federal Court of Appeals by a Democrat, Bill Clinton. Walking in the door, she would bring more experience on the bench and more varied experience on the bench than anyone currently serving on the United States Supreme Court had when they were appointed.
In addition to experience, another thing that a lot of court watchers say is important when a president makes these selections is to think about the 9 folks in a room and if you can be a consensus builder. And there's been a lot of critique about brusqueness in her approach, I guess, in her manner from the bench. Some of her colleagues say that wasn't the case, but certainly some of the lawyers that argued cases before her felt that kind of brusque tone from her. And I'm wondering, is that going to be problematic in terms of consensus building on the court? If she is confirmed? Well,
obviously the dynamic within the conference room, which is the most important part of what a justice does in terms of consensus building when he or she meets with the other justices, is a very different dynamic than sitting on the bench. And I think Judge Sotomayor's clerks, the people who know her well, have all said that she is a wonderful person who, will be, I think, a good consensus builder on the court.
John, we had Senator Sessions, the ranking Republican member of the Judiciary Committee, on the show last week, and he immediately raised concerns about the timeline. He said even if we saw an announcement this week, as we now have, it would be very difficult, maybe not even feasible, to confirm that justice by August 10th, before the August recess. What do you make of that argument? It seems like it's something Republicans are going to talk about in the weeks to come, that they don't want to rush into this.
Right. Well, I think Judge Sotomayor's record is a little more extensive, but about similar to Judge Alito's record. And there's a pretty set timeline that I think is a fair timeline in order to give us all time to really study Judge Sotomayor's record, to go through the opinions, but to do as what President Obama asked the Senate to do, which is get Sotomayor confirmed in enough time that she can do the business of the court.
And in your view, is a filibuster something that is a reasonable option? There are different legal opinions as to whether this is something that's within the rights of a senator to launch. There was an attempt to change the rules a few years ago. Now you've got the people on the other side, the Democrats where the Republicans were, the Republicans where the Democrats were. Is that an option for Republicans?
Well, the Senate has the option of a filibuster. There's always, I don't think they will give it up lightly. I don't think this is a nominee that is likely to provoke a filibuster.
Doug Kendall, the president of the Constitutional Accountability Center, thank you so much for being here today to discuss this. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to be back with more top-line Republican strategist Phil Musser will join us in just a moment. Stay tuned.